Speaking of Batman, Batman is a crime fighter, as do police fight. Speaking
Crime
of
crimes.
Batman, yeah, police
Crime
fight
fimers.
crimes. Police they fight crimes, and here lately, a lot of people have been talking about defunding the police, reallocating funds to different sectors of the city, whether it be like building up communities or having more counseling, or just different sections of the police that we can build. Because, in all honesty, and not making an excuse for them by any means, but we ask the police to do too much stuff. Like,
Absolutely.
they have to do everything. And if we talk about the way that we do, the police officers that we have, a lot of them are not equipped even for like the basic stuff that they do. So when you get into like more technical work, like they're not built for it.
Right.
So yeah. And I thought it was a good idea. I don't like the name of it because I think it automatically makes people think like, oh, you're getting rid of the police? It's like, no, that's not what
Yeah.
we're doing.
It,
That's
it,
not
it,
what we're
it,
doing.
I totally agree with you on the PR aspect of it. It's
Yeah.
probably not the greatest choice of phraseology.
Exactly, man.
But you look back on some things. I bet the NAACP wishes it had a different name about right now.
Probably.
It doesn't mean that the idea behind it isn't a great thing.
Right.
Um, so I've thought a lot about this,
Mm-hmm.
and again, my take, the idea behind it is really good, and it's you take the money and you put it where it's going to be most helpful.
Mostly,
You know?
yes, definitely.
I come from Kansas, a state where education and the arts in the last decade really got gutted.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all a part of Sam Brownback's grand experiment for the state of Kansas, which
Mm-hmm.
failed miserably, by the way. He slashed taxes on businesses and expected it to reap the benefits in the forms of job growth and property taxes and sales taxes and all that. But it
Mm-hmm.
failed miserably. And so as a result, you had no funding for your state, and they slashed funding to the arts, and they slashed funding to education.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, home prices took a dive. I sold my house right in the midst of that. Unfortunately, I took
Oh,
a
jeez.
roughly $10,000 loss on a house that I had owned for 10 years.
Man.
Like, it was crazy. So having seen that, it's like we've taken money from a lot of different places
Mm-hmm.
that we probably shouldn't have taken money from
Most
already.
definitely.
So
Most
like
definitely.
balance the funding might be a better approach than like defund the police. But
Yeah. Eh,
you know what? Sometimes things come about and it's like, okay, yeah, this is an idea.
yeah,
Um,
man.
do police need tanks? No.
My friend, that's exactly what I was about to get to. I see so many police chiefs across the country talking about, no, we need our funding. Oh, we do it. We take it for training, and we need it because we need it.
Well,
So
and it becomes one of those things where you don't get it the next year unless you spend it the year before. So it's
right.
like you start spending it even in years you don't need to buy new tanks. You're buying all kinds of crap.
But that's the thing, dude. And I understand, like I was reading up on it, and the U.S. Department of Defense had what is called the 1033 Act, which gave um, law enforcement agencies access to basically military equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know what an MRAP is, but an MRAP is an anti-mine vehicle that the Army uses or the military uses, just in case they go into an area that has mines, it's protected
Like
against that.
Afghanistan and IEDs.
Exactly. You do not need that in Wyoming. It's a little town in Wyoming with 80,000 people called Natrona County in the city of Casper. They have one. Actually, they have two to patrol 80,000 people in Wyoming. Like, even if you lived in the craziest city in New York, how many hoods are cops going to that are riddled with landmines? Like, bro, you don't need it. You don't need it.
You remember, what was it, 20 years going on now when mental health facilities were all getting defunded? There is an
Oh.
empty campus in my hometown of Topeka, and it was called Menninger's,
Mhm.
and it was where folks went when they needed some help mentally, whether it was
Yeah.
for substance abuse or schizophrenia,
Mhm.
anything along those lines. And it closed, and they're just like, okay, go ahead, folks.
Back out into the streets you go.
Like they gave him a
What?
carton of milk and a pop on the tail and said, go get him.
Literally, go get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Whoever you
Yeah.
can catch.
Go get
That's
him.
crazy, man. That's
Yeah.
insane.
And now our top facilities to
Mhm.
deal with mental illness are prisons.
Just throw them in there, man. And we know the way the prison system works. You're not going to get rehabilitated. Honestly, at this point, with the number of prisoners they have in America, how can you rehabilitate everybody?
Mm-mm.
It's just damn near impossible. I feel like. But one thing I have heard with defunding the police, if we do put money back into programs and communities the way that we should, if kids have more opportunities, if families are more intact and they know, more so how to like take advantage of opportunities that are there for them, crime is gonna go down.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go down, making the police's job easier.
We
So
talked
I
about
just,
it. We talked about it in episode 1 with Martin and Sean, community
mhm,
policing
yep.
and investing in your community.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I feel also like the title, defund the police. Like, dude, that's not the way to go. Like, explain what it actually is, because that shit, it doesn't sound good. And if you want people to jump on board with it, you have to make something not that sexy, but something that's somewhat, appealing when you say it. Like, defund the police sounds like you're gonna shut it down and that's it. And
Right.
nobody's gonna go for that.
Right. We call them common sense gun laws. Maybe we call it common sense fiscal distribution.
Seriously, something, man. Like you, and it all it does. I feel it's only intimidation. You want the intimidation because I mean we like the police that are running around now in like army gear and like AR-15s and stuff that they really don't know how to use. It's just going to cause more confusion. And I understand you want to come into a situation and like, oh, I'm dressed and ready to go and all that kind of stuff. But dude, you're just making the problem worse.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it's doing. People see you driving these
Exacerbating the
big ass
situation.
tanks. Exactly. People see you driving these big ass tanks around the street. It doesn't make them feel safe. It makes folks wonder, like, shit, is our neighborhood this bad? Like,
Right.
should I be nervous? Like, you're not helping anything, man. So, and I also feel like, and I even posted about it this last week, I feel like a lot of police officers want that military experience without actually having the danger of the military.
I had this conversation with my roommate, and I said, I feel like with the militarization of the police force nowadays, some folks are like, ooh, I can get that military type feel without having to go over to Afghanistan and Iraq.
Just stay at home.
I can sleep in my own bed.
Like,
And there are
what?
certainly people like that.
Yes.
You know what? Not all cops. Certainly not. My ex-wife is a shining beacon of a really good police officer.
Mm-hmm.
I shared a post that somebody had made after she worked like a 16-hour day
I
on
saw
her
that.
feet. But she has a criminal justice degree, just got her master's degree, and is one of the smartest people I know, and went in from a mindset not of, okay, let me mess some stuff up, but okay, how do I help vulnerable people?
How can I fix? How can I fix this? Like, yeah, it's too many fuck some shit up type dudes, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's too many cats that I'm sure, like, once they started getting their tactical gear and their riot gear shit, they were getting amped up. And that's not the people we want or need.
You saw the videos of the guys that are out there. They got their shields and their helmets on, and one of them's like, "Yeah, okay."
Why?
It's like he's like getting ready to go play a rugby game, and
Right.
like, dude, no, it should be like a very somber moment, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're about to go shove people around. This is what I signed up for.
like it shouldn't have been, Mark. It shouldn't have been, but you're really amped up right now to go and kick some old people's ass and some kids' asses that just want to see change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I've heard so many cops speak out, man, about how corrupt it is, and how things just aren't the way they should be as far as the mentality with law enforcement in their particular departments. And I mean, a post is great, man. Like, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But dude, I, like, part of me is just like, okay, if you know something wrong, then do something about it.
Right.
Tell somebody. But then they'll get backlash from that, from like the actual cops.
Right.
So,
Well, yeah. John Oliver had a great take on that. He's one of my favorites. He does a deep dive on a single issue, and he did one on the racist history behind police forces.
yeah.
And again, that's not saying anything about specific individuals.
Right.
That's talking about the systemic racism that is baked in.
The
Certainly,
institution itself is built on that.